Hey guys, so I know a lot of you have made my ultimate banana bread recipe. It's one of my favorite recipes too. If you don't know that recipe, I'll leave you a link in the description. But over the holidays, I experimented with that recipe and turned it into a chocolate banana bread recipe. And oh my, it might rival the first one. It is so good, so moist, so delicious, and so chocolatey. So I know we're still in January and we're all a little bit still on diets, but I had to share this now because I was afraid I was going to forget about it, and I couldn't deny you this delicious recipe. Let me show you how to make it. So what gives this bread its rich chocolatey flavor is the fact that we're going to use two different types of chocolate. So we want to use 2 ounces of bittersweet chocolate, and you want to look for something that says at least 60% cacao. You don't want to go much higher than 70% or it starts to get a little bit too bitter. And then you want to make sure that you break it up a bit so it'll be easier to melt in the next step, and you'll see what I mean in a minute. And then we're also going to add 3/4 cup of unsweetened cocoa powder. And then we're also going to add a cup of hot boiling water on top of the chocolate. And that's going to bloom our cocoa powder so that it brings out its best flavor. And it's also going to help melt the bittersweet chocolate underneath. So you can whisk that up just until it's nice and smooth. Add 1 3/4 cups of white sugar. Now that might sound like a ton of sugar, especially if you've made my other banana bread recipe that only has about 1/2 cup in it, but we need a lot more sugar in this recipe because that unsweetened cocoa powder is really bitter. And then you also want to add a tablespoon of vanilla extract and 3/4 cup of vegetable oil, or you could also use canola oil. And then you're just going to stir that up until everything is combined. And then we are going to add 3 eggs, one at a time, beating each one really well in between each addition. Okay, so now we're gonna add our bananas. So working with 3 very ripe bananas, you can mash them up with a potato masher. If you're working with bananas that are not very ripe, you're not gonna get much banana flavor. It becomes more pronounced the riper they get, and you won't get that much sweetness. So just be patient and wait until your bananas ripen. Now, if you have bananas that are really ripe, but you're not ready to bake this bread yet, you can always peel them, put them in a Ziploc bag, and pop them in the freezer. And then when you're ready to make them, just defrost them in the fridge the night before, and you're good to go. So you just want to stir in your mashed bananas, and then you can set this mixture aside. And then we're going to mix together our dry ingredients. So you're going to add 1 3/4 cups of all-purpose flour, 1½ teaspoons of baking soda, and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. You can whisk that all together and then add this to your wet ingredients slowly in thirds until everything is combined. Then you want to pour your batter out into a 9x5 loaf pan that has been sprayed with some baking spray. Now, I have been pretty surprised over the years to see the variation in depth of loaf pans. So if you end up with more batter than you need, I would just put them in a muffin tin because these would make fantastic muffins. So you might get 3 or 4 extra muffins out of it, depending on how deep your loaf pan is. And then you are gonna bake in a 350-degree Fahrenheit oven for anywhere from 55 minutes to 1 hour and 5 minutes. And then allow your bread to cool completely because it is such a delicate bread that the longer it sits and cools, the easier it will be to cut and it won't get all crumbly on you. Now, if you'd like to learn how to make my classic banana bread recipe, you can click the annotation there, and I will see you back here next week for another quick and easy recipe. Until then, bye.